this is Lesson 3, Shifting Sands. In this lesson, students are going to apply some of the ideas that they've been working on for classifying soils, and they're going to start classifying by sizes. You'll want to start by reviewing observations of the soil from the first 2 lessons. If you still have some samples from the settling test that have settled a longer period of time, this is a good time to make the observations of those as well. Also, make sure students are still making their observations of the plants in the different soil samples, continuing to keep those watered, and continuing to update their student workbooks with the results as this continues. And this will continue a little bit longer. We want to give adequate time for all of those seeds to grow. Okay. For today's lesson, we're going to be talking about rocks and the different sizes of rocks. You'll want to start by showing the poster that's included in your kit that classifies the different types of rocks by their names and shows sizes as well. This is a great chance to start integrating some math by doing measurement, have them get out rulers, have them measure the different sizes of the ranges for the different types of rocks and those names. And then you'll want to make sure you have that displayed somewhere where they can refer to it throughout the remainder of this unit so that they can use that vocabulary as well as they're working. For today's lesson, you're going to pass out cups of sand that have sand and pebbles and rocks in them. And the students are first going to observe just that alone. Then talk about the different things that they see in there, the different sizes they're seeing. Encourage them to use some of the vocabulary that you've been talking about. Pebbles, granules, sand. Encourage them to really start applying that to things that they're seeing and touching. And then ask the students how they could separate those. If they had this and they wanted to separate by size, what would be an effective way to do that? The next thing you're going to do is you're going to introduce the tool that students will be doing for that today. They will be using a sieve, which is a cup with holes in it. You'll pass these out. When you get them out of your kit, before you pass them out to the students, do make sure that you have, of the 3 that you have, they have 3 different sizes of holes, a large hole, a medium hole, and a small hole, in order to make the experiment successful. So pass these out to the students and just allow them to observe and see what they notice. They can apply this to anything that they've already seen before. Some may connect this to a colander that they've seen before when they're cooking. So allow them a couple of minutes to explore this, and then explain that in their student workbook, they have an activity that they're going to do where they're going to use these sieves in order to separate out the different sizes of rocks. They're going to start with the sieve with the largest holes. Remind them that they'll need to work over a paper plate, and that all of the soil as they're working is going to stay either in the sieve or on the plate as they continue. So it asks what went into the first sieve, and that's everything from here. They'll want to write that down too. Again, encourage them to use the type of vocabulary that we've been learning in the unit already. They will pour that in. Okay, allow a moment to shake that around and sift it. And then they can make observations of what remained in there. They'll set this over to the side and record their observations after that first part, what stayed in the sieve and what came out. So then what they'll do is take everything that was left over that came out from the first time, and they're going to pour that into the middle one. This is with the medium-sized holes. And do the same thing again. You can ask them to predict what they think will stay in as well as what will come out. They probably noticed the biggest samples. This is a good opportunity for them to see kind of some of the smaller particles that maybe they weren't noticing the first time around. This takes a little longer, and this is a good opportunity to kind of have them apply some of their critical thinking to this. Why some of this goes faster than other parts. See what they're starting to notice as they're shaking it. What remains in there as well as what is left on the plate. Have them be patient and continue to work on it. We don't want them to stop too soon and leave some of the smaller particles in. We want to get as much of that out as possible. They may need to tilt it, move it around to get more of that out. Once they've had a chance to do that, again, the particles that were too big to go through the sieve are going to stay inside of that, and you'll set that aside. They'll make those observations in their workbook, and then we'll go through the last part where this sample will go into the sieve with the smallest holes. And you will continue with the same process. Again, making the observations in the book. Really encourage them to use the very precise language. Some of your students, if they're very accurate with their measurements of smaller items, you may have them try to measure some of the smaller particles. The first group that stayed in the sieve is probably large enough for your students to measure if you were incorporating some math into the lesson as well. And again, just like before, part of the sample will stay in the sieve, the smallest particles will fall through and be left on the plate.